If you've ever stared at a task for hours, knowing exactly what you need to do, but somehow doing everything except that one thing, you're not alone. You tell yourself you'll start in 5 minutes. Then 5 minutes become an hour. The day disappears, and you're left wondering the same thing you've asked yourself 100 times before. Why can't I just do it? Most people answer that question with one word: laziness. But what if that's completely wrong? What if the real reason you procrastinate has nothing to do with being lazy? What if your brain isn't refusing to work because it's weak, but because it's trying to protect you? That changes everything. Because once you understand what's actually happening inside your mind, you stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. The truth is, procrastination isn't a time management problem. It's an emotional management problem. Think about the last task you avoided. Maybe it was a difficult conversation, a work project, studying for an exam, starting a business, going to the gym. On the surface, it looked like you were avoiding the task itself, but if you dig deeper, you'll notice something else. You weren't avoiding the work. You were avoiding the feelings the work created. Maybe it made you anxious. Maybe you were afraid of failing. Maybe you worried your work wouldn't be good enough. Maybe you felt overwhelmed because you didn't know where to begin. Your brain noticed those uncomfortable emotions and immediately searched for an escape. That's why, instead of working, you suddenly felt an irresistible urge to check your phone. Watch one more YouTube video. Clean your room, scroll through social media, reply to messages that could have waited until later. Those activities weren't more important. They simply made you feel better, at least for a moment. Psychologists call this mood repair. Your brain isn't trying to destroy your future. It's trying to improve your present. It chooses immediate emotional relief over long-term rewards because, from its perspective, surviving the current discomfort feels more urgent than achieving tomorrow's success. And that's where the cycle begins. You avoid the task. You feel temporary relief. Later, the deadline gets closer. Your anxiety grows stronger. The task now feels even bigger, so you avoid it again. Every time you repeat this cycle, your brain learns the same lesson. Avoidance works. It doesn't matter that it hurts you in the long run. Your brain only remembers that escaping discomfort made you feel better right now. Imagine someone standing at the edge of an icy lake. They know crossing it will lead to something amazing on the other side. But the first step feels terrifying. So they keep walking around the edge instead, convincing themselves they're getting ready. That's procrastination. You're not refusing to move because you don't care. You're refusing because the first step feels emotionally unsafe. This is why highly successful people procrastinate too. Doctors procrastinate. Entrepreneurs procrastinate. Artists procrastinate. Even world-class athletes experience it. The difference isn't that they're fearless, it's that they've learned not to trust their emotions as a guide for action. Most people unknowingly follow what psychologists call the feel-good principle. They believe they should work only when they feel motivated. The problem? Motivation is unpredictable. Some mornings you wake up energized. Other mornings your mind feels heavy before the day even begins. If your productivity depends on motivation, then your results will always depend on your mood. And moods are notoriously unreliable. Successful people understand something different. Action creates motivation far more often than motivation creates action. Think about going to the gym. Almost nobody feels excited before every workout. But once you've warmed up for 10 minutes, your energy changes. The hardest part wasn't exercising. The hardest part was starting. The same thing happens with writing, studying, building a business, or learning a new skill. Your brain exaggerates the discomfort before you begin. Once you're actually doing the work, that discomfort often fades much faster than you expected. This happens because your imagination is usually worse than reality. Before giving a presentation, your mind imagines embarrassment. Before making a difficult phone call, it imagines rejection. Before starting a project, it imagines failure. Your brain creates stories designed to keep you safe. The problem is that safety and growth rarely exist in the same place. Every meaningful achievement asks you to tolerate uncertainty, and uncertainty feels uncomfortable. That's why perfectionism and procrastination are secretly best friends. People often think perfectionists are incredibly productive because they have high standards. In reality, perfectionism frequently becomes one of the biggest causes of inaction. When you believe your first attempt has to be amazing, starting becomes terrifying. You stare at the blank page. You keep researching instead of creating. You spend weeks planning instead of acting. You tell yourself you're waiting for the perfect moment. But perfection isn't your goal. Protection is. If you never start, your work can't be judged. If you never launch the business, it can't fail. If you never write the book, nobody can criticize it. Ironically, trying to avoid failure guarantees something even worse. Nothing changes. This is why so many intelligent, talented people remain stuck for years. Not because they're incapable, because they're trapped inside an invisible emotional prison they don't even realize exists. Every postponed dream adds another brick to that prison. Eventually, procrastination stops feeling like a choice. It starts feeling like part of your personality. You begin saying things like, "I'm just a procrastinator," but that's not your identity. It's a habit your brain has practiced thousands of times, and habits, no matter how deeply rooted, can be changed. The first step isn't forcing yourself to become more disciplined overnight. It's learning to notice what's happening beneath the surface. The next time you catch yourself avoiding something important, don't ask, "Why am I so lazy?" Instead, ask yourself a different question. What emotion am I trying not to feel? That single question changes everything. Because once you identify the emotion, fear, self-doubt, overwhelm, uncertainty, or embarrassment, you stop fighting the wrong battle. You're no longer trying to defeat laziness. You're learning how to face discomfort without running from it. And that's where real change begins. The surprising thing is that courage doesn't mean the discomfort disappears. It means you stop expecting it to disappear before you act. Most people wait to feel confident before they begin, but confidence is almost never the starting point. It's the result of repeated action. Every small promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence that you're capable, and your brain pays attention to that evidence. This is why tiny wins matter far more than dramatic bursts of motivation. If writing an entire chapter feels impossible, write one paragraph. If exercising for an hour feels overwhelming, commit to 5 minutes. If cleaning your whole house feels exhausting, organize one shelf. These small actions may seem insignificant, but they accomplish something powerful. They teach your brain that starting isn't dangerous. Once you've begun, momentum naturally takes over. There's another mindset shift that can completely transform the way you approach procrastination. Instead of asking, "How do I finish this?" ask, "What's the smallest action I can take right now?" Your brain resists huge, uncertain goals, but it rarely argues with actions that take only a minute or two. Open the document, write the title, read one page, send the first email. Small beginnings break the cycle of avoidance. Remember, every person you admire has faced the same invisible resistance. The difference isn't that they never procrastinate. The difference is that they don't allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Your future isn't built by the days when you feel unstoppable. It's built by the ordinary days when you choose to act despite feeling uncertain. So the next time you catch yourself scrolling instead of creating or delaying instead of beginning, don't attack yourself with guilt. Pause for a moment. Recognize what's really happening. Your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort. Thank it for trying. Then gently remind yourself that growth always feels unfamiliar at first. Take one small step, then another. Because every meaningful transformation begins the same way, not with perfect motivation, not with endless confidence, but with one imperfect action taken in the face of uncertainty. The hidden reason you procrastinate was never laziness. It was fear disguised as comfort. And the moment you stop running from that fear, you stop giving procrastination control over your life. That's when you realize something extraordinary. The life you've been waiting to start has been waiting for you to take the first step all along.